I'm so thrilled that you are here because animals are so important. They are our most wonderful, our most best friends, and I'm so excited talking to you about them. So there's so much misunderstanding and misinformation going on about animals, and one of the reasons is actually where we get the information. So where do we get the information, or where do we get the knowledge that we have about animals? Most of it is actually, we usually, when we grow up and let's say we have a dog or cat companion, it's from our parents. They teach us how to look after them, what to do, and so on. And or let me just ask you guys, like, how did you get to the knowledge that you have about animals? So it was either your parents, so they taught you what to do, how to do it. And where did they get their information from? They probably got it from their parents, and so on and so on. So it was literally handed down from generation to generation. Or you might have gotten it from a teacher or friend, but where did they get it from? Same thing, handed down from generation to generation. Or you might even have gotten it from an expert. Now, how do experts get that information about animals? Well, what's happening is usually they observe animals. So sometimes they take the animals out of their natural habitat and then they observe them. Quite often they make the animals solve some problems, and it's usually human problems. And then they observe and see what the animals do and how they do it. And it doesn't matter if it's an animal or if it's us. If we are not in our environment, we are not acting naturally because we are worried, we're concerned, we might hear things and so on. Or so that is quite not it doesn't really give us a lot of information because we don't act natural. Or the expert observed the animals in their natural habitat, and then they observe them and look what they're doing. And then what they do is they observe animals. So it doesn't matter if it's in their natural habitat or not. They observe the animals and then they judge what they see. Now, the problem with that is they judge what they see from our human perspective. And that's where all the misunderstandings come from. So they basically, and we do the same thing. We watch animals. What do they do? How do they act? And then we think, but they should do this and this because we see it from our own human perspectives and viewpoints. So what we should actually do, we should see things from the animal's perspective. And even better would be if we actually ask the animals, why do you do what you do? And when I'm talking about that, I'm talking more about, not talking about the outer. So how far can a gazelle jump, or how does a frog change his or her color? I'm talking about the inner life. How does an animal see this world? What does an animal think about things? How do they see the world? How do they see us? So it's more about the inner life. So why don't we ask the animals, how do you feel? It's the same thing. Let's say I meet you and a friend and you were just watching, oh, there's a little one, and you were just watching a movie, and I ask you, what do you think your friend thought about this movie? So even if you know your friend for many, many years, you don't really know what your friend really thought about the movie. Only your friend can tell us what he or she thought. So why don't we ask the animals? So a lot of people say, well, animals can't talk. Now that's another misconception, because yes, we can communicate with animals. So if we really look at what is communication or a conversation, actually communication is just an exchange of information. And there are many different ways how we actually communicate with each other. Now, we humans put the most emphasis on the verbal way of communication. So, we talk with each other. And since animals don't speak English, German, French, or Spanish, most people say, well, animals can't talk. But that is not correct, because actually animals, as we all know, they have a voice. So they do talk. However, we humans have never, ever actually learned an animal language. If you think about it, our animals, they know our language really well. All of you have animal companions. So if you say to your dog companion, do you want to go for a walk? your dog knows exactly what you're talking about. But so they learn so many words and everything. But how many humans have ever learned what a meow or chirp means? We have never learned that, but our animal companions have learned our language. So, but again, because we do speak a different language, a lot of people say we cannot talk with animals. So again, communication is an exchange of information. So verbal communication doesn't work. It's a one-way street where we can tell our animal companions what we want, but we cannot ask them, what's your favorite color? Other ways of communication is, for example, body language. Animals are awesome in body language. We are not. So that not more accidents actually happen with animals. We actually have to thank the animals for them because they're so awesome. And they really understand our body language. We don't theirs. Again, one-way street because you cannot ask them again, what's your favorite color? Or how did you hurt your leg? Then there are other ways, for example, there's scent, and there's so many more. And then there's other nonverbal ways of communication. For example, is text, email. This is all nonverbal, and we use it all the time. So the same thing, we actually can have a conversation with animals with questions and answers through telepathy. And telepathy is just a non-verbal way of communication. Sorry, he's really snoring now. So telepathy is known as the universal language. I, however, like to call it a soul language because when we connect telepathically, we actually connect with the soul. And since the soul is immortal, we can also connect with our animal companions who have left their physical bodies because their souls are immortal. So through telepathy, we can have a conversation with animals with questions and answers. And that is what I do. I connect with animals and then translate into words for people to hear what the animals actually have to say. It is absolutely incredible. It is so interesting. And that's how I know that most of the stuff that we know or think we know about animals is not correct. Because when I ask the animals, they give me totally different information. So it is so important that we talk with animals because this way we find out how they actually feel. What do they think? How do they perceive things? It is so, so important to ask them. And the same thing when we do a study about animals. Why don't we ask the animals? It would cut the study down in half. They could tell us. And when we find out, when you talk with animals and we find the depth of their knowledge, the depth of their feelings and so on, it's absolutely incredible. For example, again, so many people say, well, animals don't remember things. They can't remember things. Well, first of all, I mean, you don't have to be an animal communicator. But if you have an animal companion, let's say you have a dog companion, you know they remember because otherwise, why would you ever teach your dog how to sit? Because if they wouldn't remember, like 2 minutes later, you could do it all over again. So they do remember. But it's incredible. I give an example. I had a client with a dog companion, and he was terrified to go into smaller spaces. So when I communicated with him, like he really he was claustrophobic. So I asked him, like, where does it come from? And he said, when he was really, really, really small, he got stuck somewhere. And he thought he was dying. It was horrible. So I relayed it to his guardian, and she said, no, that never happened. No, that's not true. No, that's just can't be. Okay, fine. So anyway, so she was really intrigued by that. So she had adopted her dog from a breeder. So she went back and spoke with the breeder and said, did something ever happen? And the breeder confirmed and said, yes, your dog companion, got stuck in the birth canal and almost died. So that was the experience he had. So he remembered he was in a small space and he was terrified because he was almost dying. So did he remember that? Absolutely. It's so important literally that we talk to animals. Like I can give you so many examples of what animals like and what they don't like, or what we think, and names are incredibly important. If you call, I had another example where I connected with a lady who had adopted a cat companion. They were together for 12 years, and the cat was 14 years young. So she said, for the first year we had an incredible relationship, and then literally it changed. My cat lives in this side of the apartment, I live there, and once in a while we meet each other, in the hallway. And so when I asked her cat companion, I said, what happened? What's going on? And she said, I hate my name. I really hate my name. So I asked my client, would you mind changing your cat companion's name? And she said, no, I don't like that name either. So changed the name. And I get an email a day later. This cat, they hadn't literally in almost 12 years interacted with each other, the cat was sitting on her lap. Because if somebody calls you a name that you really don't like for years, and you say, please don't call me that, and you keep on saying that, at one point you give up and say, well, is not interested, my feelings don't count, or whatever. So it's the same thing. So we can learn so much from the animals. It's absolutely incredible. They are so, same thing. If you talk about dogs, most people say, why would you talk to a dog? I mean, what do they want? They want to live in the country and have a bone. Well, I have a client. We had a conversation with our dog companion, and she was worried that her dog companion was lonely. And she wanted me to ask him if he wanted a companion. So I asked him and I said, you're lonely. And he said, yes. Would you companion? And he said, would you like to have a companion? And he said, I would actually prefer that my guardian would be at home. So I told her that, and she said, that was before COVID. And she said, no, sorry, I got to work. My boss won't allow me to work from home, so I have to go to the office. So he said to her, why don't you start your own business? And she said, well, I am not a business person. I wouldn't even know what to do and how to do it and so on. So he said, well, you're good at this. And he gave her a business plan, told her what to do, how to do it, how to go about it. And she followed it. And after a year, she made over $1 million and had several people working for her. And people say a dog only wants to have a bone and live in the country. So this is absolutely not true. So the depth of the knowledge animals have. I mean, animals, when they are born now, they're born in the 21st century. Do they know what airplanes are? Yes. You can talk to a dog about the stock market. They know what it is. Are they interested in it? No. I know what a stock market is. Am I interested in it? No. Same thing, right? But very important, again, what we have to do when we talk with animals, we have to see things from their perspective, not from ours, from theirs. So why would you communicate with animals? Well, first of all, it's to find out how they feel, what they think. So when you talk with animals about, most people, when the first time they get in touch with me, it's about wellness issues or behavior issues. So when it's about wellness issues, animals cannot diagnose themselves, neither can I. However, they can tell us how they feel. Same thing. If you're not feeling well and you're not a physician yourself, and you go to your healthcare provider, you don't just walk into the office and say, so what's wrong with me? No, your healthcare provider will say, Susanne, why are you actually here? How are you feeling? What's going on? And you explain it. And so our animals can do that as well. And that's also so important. We have to see how they feel. Like, does your dog have a headache? Or what's going on? Like, we have to ask them, because we can only guess. We know there's something wrong, but what's wrong? Friends of mine, their cat companion wasn't eating. So they took him to a vet checked him through and couldn't find anything. Everything was fine. So they gave him an appetite stimulant. Went home, still didn't the cat companion still didn't eat. So they called me and said, Claudia, what's going on? So I asked him, I said, what's going on? And by the way, you can connect telepathically via distance. So I just can tune into the animal's energy. So most of my sessions are actually done via over distance. So I asked him, and he said, well, his tooth was hurting. I told his guardians, and they said, well, the vet checked the teeth and couldn't find anything. I said, I'm sorry, he's telling me the tooth is hurting. So they went back, and the vet had a really thorough check of the teeth and found a tiny, tiny hairline fracture in one of the molars. So the molar had to come out, no more problems with not eating. So we really have to find out, how they feel, and only they can tell us. Or what do they think about things? For example, COVID. I talked to a lot of animals about COVID because so many lives have changed, and it's really funny because most of our dog companions, because of course we take them out when I tell them about COVID, social distancing, people wearing masks, and people are afraid to get that disease. They think this is funny, not like funny as in weird funny, because animals are not scared of catching something. And they really, the masks, they really don't like masks because they can't see people's faces. So but they're okay, they kind of accept it. If that's what you do, fine. But it was really funny. I talked to a lot of horses as well, because a lot of people, of course, couldn't visit their horse companions. And the horses, of course, first thing, they really miss the animal, their human guardians, and they were so happy to hear from them, because all of a sudden nobody came anymore. It was a little scary. But on the other side, they thought, this is great, because they all of a sudden had peace and quiet, no cars coming. It was great. They didn't have to go out and do a lot of riding. So most of the horses were actually really happy about it. So a different perspective. So it's really amazing. So that's wellness issues. Then the other thing is behavior issues. So when we talk about with animals about behavior issues, it's not to tell them what we want them to do, or what we don't want them to do. It's to find out why they do what they do. When an animal does something, there's always a reason for it. It's just that mostly we don't hear it. Animals, they always talk with us. They never give up. And that is the amazing part. Let's say you move to a new house and you have a neighbor, and you come out the first morning and your neighbor's right there, and you say, oh, good morning, Mr. So-and-so. And your neighbor doesn't say anything. You think, oh, maybe he didn't hear me. Next morning, you do the same thing, and he still doesn't say anything. You said, well, that's weird. The third morning, you probably don't even say anything anymore. But animals are so sweet. They talk to us all the time, all the time. And then, for example, behavior issues, cats. The number one reason why cats are getting euthanized is for not using the litter box. So why do cats not use the litter box? We should ask them, because usually when an animal, let's say there's an issue with a cat, and the cat would like to tell you there's something wrong. So what kind of option does the cat have? Well, first of all, of course they tell us, but most people don't hear the animals, right? So they kind of ignore what the cat has to say. So the cat says, okay, that's not working, so what could I do? Maybe I stop playing. So then again, we rationalize it out and say, well, the cat is getting old, it doesn't want to play anymore. So the cat said, okay, that didn't work. Next thing, oh, I stopped eating. So what do? Take them to the vet, right? And then again, they might get appetite stimulants. So the cat says, oh, that didn't work either. So what else can I do? Not using the litter box. So they are really not using the litter box to tell us that there's something wrong. So, I mean, sometimes one of my cat companions for a while didn't use the litter box either, but it was because he was on medication. So that just made him not use the litter box. Not a big deal. I had another client, and her cat companion, same thing, didn't use the litter box. So we talked to him, and he said, well, something is wrong, and I want to tell my guardian that something is wrong. So she said, okay, I'll take care of it. I'll do that. And but please stop, urinating outside of the litter box. So he said, okay, but how do you know if something is not right? How do I do that? I'm not using the litter box, so you know that something is not right. And so she said to him, no problem, I'll check in with you. I said, great. So then we scheduled another call like a week later, just to double check that everything was still okay. And also because she had said also during the session that she would check in with him a week later, just to make sure he was fine. So I connected with her via email, said, okay, so are we still on for the session? And she said, oh no, he's not, he's using the litter box now. So he kept up the bargain. She didn't. She said she would check in with him now. So it's really amazing that, it's quite often us who actually do a lot of mistakes, or make a lot of mistakes. And I had another client too, and they had multiple animal companions, and they continuously, there was always something going on. They always promised the animal companions, you do this, I do that, which is actually not the best thing to go about it, but fine. But then the animals were actually very cooperative. Animals are amazing, but the people weren't. Like, they always broke their promise. They didn't do what they said they would. And then at one point, all the animals said, well, you know what? What's the point? We're not doing it anymore because we keep our bargain. You don't. And then the people got really upset. So, it's us too. Like we what do we do to them? Like, do we work on the trust? Do we let them down? And quite often it's us, because also we don't know how to talk to animals correctly. And then the animals, they're so sweet, but at one point, I mean, everybody could gets enough, and then we always blame the animals. So we really have to find out how they feel about something. Is there something that we did wrong? What is going on? It's absolutely truly amazing. And again, so much is out there that animals, okay, there's this saying that animals don't know time. That's wrong. um I always tell people, when you leave your house, tell your animal companion where you go, what you do, what time you will be back, and what you would like them to do while you're gone, which could be watch some TV or play with your toys. A friend of mine went away for the weekend, and she had two cat companions, and she had a friend staying with her cat companions, and said, she left on Friday, and she said, I'll be back Sunday night at 8, as per me, right? So anyway, fine. So the cats were fine Saturday, Sunday night, 7 o'clock, they were fine. 7:30, they were fine. 8 o'clock, they were fine. 5 after 8, they actually climbed up the curtains, because she said she would be back by 8, and she wasn't. So then we wouldn't, of course, say, oh, the cats, their behavior is unacceptable. No, they were expecting her to come home, and they were terrified if something went wrong, because she said she would be back by 8. So again, it's not them. It's they were doing this behavior because they were terrified that something happened to her. So we always have to find out what is going on with them. How do they feeling? And we have the opportunity now to do that by talking with the animals. They can hear us. We can talk to animals about, animals have goals. They have wishes. They have feelings, like, what do you need? What do you really need to be happy? Because most people, they think about, what can an animal do for me? But the question should be, what can I do for the animal, right? Because we're in a relationship where it's giving and taking. So what do they need? Um, I had a client, her dog companion was getting a little bit older, so wasn't so warm anymore in the winter. So we decided, I asked, would you like a coat? And she said yes. So my client went out and bought her a coat. It was quite an expensive coat. She comes back, puts the coat on her dog companion. Her dog companion says, I'm not going out. So I got a call up, Tanya, I just spent $100 for a coat. You said to buy one, and she's not wearing it. So I asked her, and her dog companion, I said, why are you not wearing the coat? I'm in trouble here. And she said to me, it's pink. And it was done over the phone, right? And I said, it's pink. So I told her guardian, I said, the coat is pink. She doesn't like pink. And she said, it's not pink. So my client went there, looked at the coat, said, yeah, there's a pink square right in the middle. And so luckily the coat was reversible. She put it inside out, no problem. Her dog companion wore it, had no issues. So that's another thing. Maybe your dog or the cat companion doesn't like the color. It's really amazing. So when animals do something, there's always a reason for it. And again, we can ask them things. One of my clients, she actually asked her dog companion about his bucket list. It was awesome. Like, there's so many things we can ask them. And one of the things that was on his bucket list is he wanted to be on an airplane. Who would have thought, right? Animals are amazing. Like, we can't even fathom all of that, like I said, because what we've been taught about animals is so limited. It's so limited, and there's so much more. Every animal is different. The same thing when you have 10 animals eating the same food. 9 of them say they don't like it. we assume that the 10th one doesn't like it either, but that's not true. Maybe the 10th one likes it. So each of them is so individual, and only they can tell us. If you have an animal companion who has who's been, we can talk to them about fears, traumas. Why do you feel that way? What happened to you? um I had a conversation with a little West Highland Terrier. What happened was, while his guardian was at work, somebody broke into their apartment. And after that, the dog was never the same. And the lady called me and said she was so terrified because her dog companion was already 14 and totally stressed now. And just, she said, I'm terrified that the stress from that break-in will kill him. So what happened? Like, I tried everything. I mean, it's safe now. So when I talked to a dog companion, what I found out was, well, he was also deaf. So she said, well, he didn't hear anything. So what happened, right? So the Vestie told, like, he was so terrified because somebody came in a safe place. And so he was terrified. What about if it would happen again? And the man who came in were not nice. And he actually described the two men. And later on, they were actually caught breaking in somewhere else. So the description fitted exactly. So I said to this beautiful dog, what do you need to feel safe? Because what do you need, right? And he said to me, I need my baby blanket. So I told his guardian, I said, he needs his baby blanket. And she said, I can't believe it. When I first adopted him, when he was a puppy, he had a little blanket and he carried it everywhere. Literally, that blanket went everywhere he went. But then, when he got older, she put it away, but she kept it. And she gave it back to him and he was fine. He needed his baby blanket. So how do they feel? Ask them, who would have thought that, right? So there's so many things. So we have to ask each individual animal, how do you feel? What's going on? It is so absolutely incredibly important. Same like us, or um, one of my clients' cat companions said, I want a brother. No, sorry, sister. I want a sister. And literally, he said, that age, that's what she looks like, and that's the name. Well, that was pretty specific, right? So, and it was an indoor cat. And this lady said, like, how do I find this cat, right? And then a couple of weeks later, she spoke with a neighbor from upstairs and found out that actually the neighbor had a cat, and this neighbor was looking for a home for her cat companion. Name matched, female, coloring matched. How did her cat companion knew that? Who knows? But well, he had his friend now, and they're happy ever after. So it's really important. Again, most of the things that we think we know about animals is really not true. It's limited. So let's be open. Let's find out how animals really feel. Let's ask them. There's so much more. Animals know time. Animals know colors. They see colors. It's absolutely incredible. It's so incredible. Anyway, there's a ton of questions, so I think I better kind of start with some of the questions here. And let's see, how do I get here? I do apologize. I'm still a little bit new to Zoom as well. Here. Hang on. Okay. About your Shih Tzu who's nipping you, I would need some more. Like okay, I have to tell you, when I connect with an animal, I have to know who I'm talking to. So when I have a session with a client with the animal companions, I need to know the animal's name. I need to know what the animals look like. Either some people send me in a picture or description, because I have to know who. Because there's so many Shih Tzus out there, that it's sort of the same thing. If you pick up a phone and you punch in 10 numbers, individual numbers, like you get somebody on the phone, but you don't know who. But if you want to talk to somebody specific, you punch in their number and then you get this person. So I would need a little bit more information, because there's so many dogs out there, and I need a little bit more information to be able to connect with this animal specifically to ask those kind of questions. So same thing with Isabel's question. Okay. Okay, great question, Shelley. Oh, Mandy, sorry. Do you believe animals might have been a human in a past life? Awesome question. Yes. I communicate a lot with animals who left the physical bodies. And it's actually a big part. And it's really important too that if one of your animal companions left the physical body, please do stay in touch. Because as I told you early on, souls are immortal. So when an animal or even a human leaves the physical body, the soul is still there and the soul is still with you. So it is pretty much the humans out of sight, out of mind, but the animals, they connect with us all the time. Like I talk to all of my animal companions who've left their physical body every single day. We're in touch. It's the same thing if you have a good friend or sister, brother who all of a sudden decides to move to another country or other city even. You're still in touch. You still text, call, and whatever. So it's the same thing. Please do stay in touch with your animal companions who've left their physical body. So, and do have humans in the do you believe animals might have been a human in a past life? Absolutely yes. A soul can choose the species, the gender, and the space they come back. And a soul usually chooses the body or the species of the animal that gives or the species that gives them the best possibility to grow. So, for example, if I've done past lives as well, and I've been many different species. My preferred species is actually dog. But this lifetime, I came back as a human because I want to speak out for the animals. If I would have come back as a golden retriever, nobody would listen to me. So I chose to be human this time. But let's say you in this lifetime you want to experience freedom and stuff. So maybe you come back as an eagle and you soar through the skies and you learn about that. So absolutely, there's no see, that's the human thing again, that we judge about somebody is more than, this species is better than. No, we are all souls. If who are animals actually? That's another good point. Who are animals? If you think about it, let's say I take a little piece of my skin and I put it under very strong microscope. What I will find is I will see cells, cells, molecules, atoms, and then vibrating energy. If I take a piece of my animal companion skin, put it under the same microscope, what will I see? I will see cells, molecules, atoms, vibrating energy. So literally, we all vibrating energy, and on the soul level, it's vibrating energy, and there's only one energy. There's not energy for humans, energy for animals. No, there's only one energy. Same with the air. We all breathe the same air. There's not air for cats or dogs or animals and air for humans. We breathe all the same air. So deep down, we are on the basic level. We are all energy, and there's only one energy. So we are literally the same. And then a soul is energy. Then kind of just chooses the body that it gives the souls the best possibility to experience in this lifetime what he or she wants to experience. So absolutely yes. So we can, when we come back, we can interchange species and gender and also where we come back. Thanks, that's a great question. Okay, Linda, can people be taught to understand what animals are saying? If so, do you offer classes? Yes, we can. We actually, everybody's telepathic. You are telepathic. You use telepathy all the time if you're aware of it or not. And yes, it can be taught. And yes, I do teach animal telepathy as well. I teach how to communicate with animals. I do have I do coaching, I do classes. So there's if you visit my website claudiahill.com, you'll find some information. Plus I will put more info on, because I just changed my website around as well. But absolutely yes, and we all have disabilities, so you don't have to worry about can you learn it or not. You are actually already practicing it. It's just to find out exactly how to do it. And because a lot of the stuff that you have been taught you can actually have blockages. So it's very important to find out what kind of blockages you have, because the blockages will hinder you to actually hear the animals. So, but everybody has this ability because it is a soul ability and because you are souls. So yes, you can communicate with animals. Now, there's one thing I would like to tell you, which is really, really important. And this might be the biggest thing that you're taking away with you today from this class, and that is, so when we speak and when we think, we send out telepathic messages, and our animal companions pick that up. But what is very important to know that with telepathy, negatives do not come through. So what does that mean? If you say something, if you say a negation, an animal will not understand that. So for example, if you say to your dog companion, don't bark, your dog will continue barking. Because you take the negation out, that is what the animal hears. The animal will hear bark. Because in your mind, if I say to you, don't sit on the chair, you automatically picture sitting on a chair. You send out the telepathic messages, that telepathic message, sorry. And that's why so many animals do exactly the opposite of what we ask them to do. Because we humans, we say it wrong, and then we blame the animals. So when you communicate with an animal, when you talk to an animal, always say what you want. So if you don't want your dog to bark, what would you say? Please be quiet. So it's really, really important. Now, some people say, well, I tell my dog to, okay, I should ask you, what would you say not to pull on the leash? It would be loose leash, right? So, a lot of people use that and they say, my dog still pulls. Yes, because we also, just because somebody says something to you doesn't necessarily mean you do it. If I say to you, well, jump off the bridge, you probably think, yeah, right. But if I say to you, jump off the bridge, there's a train coming, you might jump, right? But just because I say it to you doesn't mean you do it. So the same thing for dogs. It's when I ask them, why do you pull on the leash? Literally, it's most of the dogs say because their guardians walks too slow. They just want to experience, want to be out there and not just, piddle around here and there and then go over there and there. They want to go and experience and do, because when they're at home all day long, they're quiet, they're tired, they're sleeping. So action, go out. So, but that's another thing. So sometimes just because you say something doesn't mean your animal companion necessarily does it. But when you say something, make sure you always put it in the positive. So what do you actually want? And that's not easy. When I give seminars and I ask people, what do you want? I get pages and pages and pages of what people don't want. And then when I say, yeah, but what do you want? Sometimes it's really hard for people to actually say what they want. So you might want to practice certain things. Again, if your dog barks, please be quiet. If your dog jumps up, please keep all 4 feet on the ground. If your cat scratches things, soft paws only. Don't even mention the claws. Like all of my cat companions have their nails, and they never ever scratch anything. Because right from the beginning, oh, there's one saying hi. Right from the beginning, there I got one. Right from the beginning, I asked them, please, kisses and soft paws only, meaning that I get kisses or I get a soft paw. I never mentioned the nails. I never mentioned the teeth, and and it's working. So what do you want? So that's very important. Always say what you want. Now it goes a little bit further. You also have to see it in your mind. So if you say to your dog companion, please be quiet, and in your mind you see your dog companion still barking, your dog companion will still bark, because what you see in your mind, the energy that you're sending out is way more powerful than the words that you're using. And the third step is you have to believe it. Because if you say to your dog companion, please be quiet, and you never believe it that it's possible, then the energy again is so negative, is so doubtful, it will never happen. But you know that your dog can be quiet, so you can believe it, right? So always say what you want. Very, very important. Okay. Oops, sorry. Uh, Great. There's a good question. We are in a tiny rental and renovating a home. Chase only know the home we sold. He comes daily to the renovation property. Love it. Many contractors delay. Okay, how do you make your beloved animal feel safe after 6 years in a nice home and comfortable? I have told him a lot of this is temporary. No one is having any fun. Okay, great. So basically, what you should do is always keep your animals posted. Tell them what's going to happen, because what affects us affects our animal companions as well. So when you're thinking about moving or some selling your home or whatever, already tell them and say, you know what, guys, or if you have one, we're going to move. We're going to be moving, and but we are a family, so we're moving all together. So first of all, that your animal companion is not worried that you leave him or her behind. So we are moving together, we're finding a new home. When you found a new home, then you can tell them, okay, we are right now, for example, temporary, we have for maybe for 3 to 6 months we have to live here, and that's because the new place is going to be renovated, and we're trying to be as comfortable here as we can, and the new place is going to be so wonderful. So tell them exactly what's going to happen. And when Jody, when you say no one is having fun, your animal companion picks up from you as well. So if you're not having fun, no fun, then your animal companion thinks there must be something wrong, because you are the one who sends out a lot of signals like, I'm worried, I'm stressed out. So your animal companion says, okay, something is wrong, she's worried, she's stressed out. So make it fun too, and keep your animal companion posted and say, okay, there's a little bit delay. The contractors, as always, it's taking longer. So, maybe another 2 months, but you know what? We are here, we're safe, we are together, and the new house is coming along really well. And keep them up to date. And when you come home, oh, I'm tired, done so much, but it's coming along. See the good stuff. Talk him through it. That's the best thing. The best thing is also for you to have a good and positive attitude, because again, your animal companion is a little bit worried about being a new place. Plus, when I moved with my guys and I moved to this place where I'm now, um, they were worried about all the noises, the neighbors, the outside noises. So even when I left and I told them I'm only going to be gone for 10 minutes or just going to the laundry room or something, they were still worried because of the noises. So it took them also a few days, but I explained everything, and it makes it so much easier and so much faster. Awesome question. Thank you. Okay, Elizabeth. Yes, I said to you, ask your animal companions how they feel, but how they are telling us. Well, you, of course, when we communicate with animals, it is done through telepathy. So we have to learn how to use this language. The same thing, I mean, when I came to Canada, I'm from Germany. As you hear, I still make a lot of mistakes. I had to learn the English language. So you have to learn, if you want to have a conversation with your animal companions, you would have to learn their language, telepathy. And meanwhile, you might, need somebody, a communicator, who can connect with your animal companion, who can be the translator until you know how to connect telepathically. So there is, there is some learning involved. Um, Great one too. What is the best way to talk to our animal companions after about returning to work after all this time you've been at home? So first of all, I would start to tell your animal companion as soon as you know. So if you know that you're going to go back to work in 2 months, tell them now. So you tell them, like the pandemic is almost over. So in 2 months, I'm going back to work. So tell them now. And then what you also should do, because it is a habit now that they've been accustomed to, that you're at home. So start to leave them alone as well, off and on, so that it's not such a shocker. I mean, the same thing, if you haven't, let's say you were laid off for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and you literally didn't do anything, you just slept in till lunch, went back, went to bed at midnight, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and then all of a sudden, hey, tomorrow I got to work. I got to get up at 6 o'clock, be at work at 7, work till 5. You probably be stressed out too, and so you slowly will probably change your rhythm, that you get up maybe at 8 and go to bed at 10. So you slowly do that as well. Give your animal companion that time of adjustment as well, but do tell them that, okay, in 2 months I'm going back to work, in a month I'm going back to work, in 2 weeks I'm going back to work, on Monday I'm going back to work, and on Friday, for example, the day before, like, your dog walker's coming back. So you getting a little bit back into the routine as well. Keep them posted, and don't just on Sunday night, hey, tomorrow I'm going back to work. Give them time to adjust. Thanks, that's awesome. um okay. Okay, what do I say to my cat when he goes on my kitchen counter to keep him off? Cats like to be up high. So it would be awesome if you could maybe compromise a little bit. And why not? I do understand with the kitchen counters, but why make it easy for both of you, and give your animal companion, your cat companion, something he or she can go on. So sorry. So for example, maybe a table, that's okay. And that way then you would say, you can go onto the you can only go onto the table in the kitchen. Avoid even mention the kitchen counter, because as soon as you mention the kitchen counter in your mind, you see the kitchen counter, and it will attract your cat companion to go on the kitchen counter. So if you have this table, which is just specifically for your cat companion, then you can put a towel on it, and then you can wash it and stuff. So make sure that you tell your cat companion, okay, only, please, only in the kitchen, go onto the table. This is your table. And that's done in a positive way. And then your cat companion still has a place to go to on in the kitchen, where he can be with you, because on the kitchen counter, they like to be with us. They like to see what we're doing, spend time with us, and maybe even get a little treat. So use the kitchen, the table, as his spot, and interact with him there as well, and say to him, only in the kitchen, only go onto this table. This is your table. Great question. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay, gosh, there's so much about animals. Like I said, I hope that you see now that there's so much more to animals. And again, that what we learned about animals is very limited. It's so outdated. It's like, 200 years ago. Animals like us, they have so much knowledge, and they have the same feelings as we do too. There's this saying that, I mean, some people still believe that animals don't feel pain, but yes, they do, physical and emotional. And they have literally the same feelings as we do. They feel despair, they feel sadness, they feel sorrow, they feel anxiety, and the list goes on. Um, However, there's one difference, and that is actually, there's a difference between animals that live with us and what people call wild animals. So the animals that don't live with us, they don't have guardians. And that is the animals who do not live with us, who don't have human contact, they don't feel embarrassment. So our animal companions, actually, they can get embarrassed really easy. So let's say you give your dog a funny haircut, or the groomer, and then people come and laugh and say, oh, look at this dog. They actually get embarrassed. I had a dog companion, and she had hip dysplasia, and it was years ago, and I got her a cart. That was before we had all the puppy carts. So people looked at her, and they were actually quite rude and making fun of her, and she didn't even want to go in it anymore. She was so embarrassed. Animals who have no human contact do not feel embarrassment, because animals do not make fun of each other. That's the only emotion that I have found in all those years. And I've been communicating with animals my entire life and professionally for over 25 years. That's the only emotion that I found that has a difference. But otherwise, animals feel the same emotions in the same levels as we do. It is absolutely, there's absolutely no difference. Anyway, um, oh, here, another one. Is there a special way you should approach an animal that you do not know if you walk by them on the street? Great, thank you so much. That's really, really important. Yes, most people, we're funny about animals. We always touch. We always touch. Don't do that. Like when I go to a client's home or friend's home or whatever, and the animals, like I love animals, like I could touch them all and hug them all, but I won't. I literally will ask the animal, may I touch you? And sometimes they say no, because they might not know me. But later on they say, you can. And then when I come into somebody's home and say, why don't you touch my dog? It's like, why don't you do that? Well, your dog didn't like it. Like didn't wanted to get to know me first. So the same thing, when you see an animal that you don't know, you can say hello, but don't get physical, and you might not look into the eyes, because for many animals, looking in the eyes actually a little bit of a threat. So you can just say, hi, how are you? And I mean, we do the same thing with people now. I mean, we have 6 feet distance. So we still have a conversation. We don't have to touch each other. So same thing, you can say, hi, how are you? Or you're so beautiful, or this or that. Absolutely, do talk to them. They'll love it. They'll love it. But don't be invasive. That's the only thing. But I pretty much all the animals that I see, if it's a bird, if it's a squirrel, or I always say, hi, good morning, nice seeing you, or whatever. Absolutely. Okay, so you guys, thank you so much. We are running out of time as well. Again, thank you for being part of this, and thank you for spending an hour with me. I really appreciate that. And if you have any questions, you know how to contact me as well. And it was a real honor to be here. And thank you so much. And please do tell your animal companions how special they are. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claudia. That was really an amazing hour. We've stopped the live stream going out, so now it's just all of us here. If any of you would like to unmute your microphone and say goodbye and thank you, or if you have one more question for Claudia, we have about 2 more minutes. Go ahead and do so. But for the entire Girls Night Live team, everybody, thank you for being with us today. Come back and see us again. And you too, Claudia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Claudia.
Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Can I get a real quick question in? Just one quick question.
Okay.
I just lost one of my dogs, and I was wondering how I can deal with the other one's grieving. How can I speak to the other one to help him through his grieving?
Okay. First of all, tell your dog companion that you're grieving as well. And another thing, what I do when I connect with animals, when they have left the physical body and they're still one that's physical, I can actually reconnect them. So that is really, really important, because animals like us, they go through grief as well. And when we have grief, like the souls who have left their physical bodies, they try to be in touch with us all the time. However, the grief is like a wall. You just can't feel anything. You don't get any messages. So by reconnecting them, or even talking to your dog companion who's still here about what actually happened and what's going on, and making sure that your dog companion who has left the physical body, that the transition went well, that will help big times. Plus, your dog companion who still is here might need certain things from you, which only he knows. So it would be a good idea to contact, to talk to him and see what he needs. But talk with him, tell him that you're also feeling the grief, and if he needs a hug, just go over and hug him. But they do feel exactly the same grief as we do. So just make sure you're spending a lot of time with him. Don't leave him alone, because that's the saddest thing too, like especially I lose my lifelong friend and then I'm alone. Make sure you leave the TV on. The animals usually prefer the TV because they also have visual they see have visual stimulation, and make sure you leave something on that's funny, like a comedy channel, so they hear people talking and laughing. Don't leave on a news cat. There's one specific one, I don't want to mention it, because if you weren't depressed before, you will be depressed after listening for the news after 5 minutes. So make sure to be with your dog companion, and to know that you share that he knows that you share that, and try to take him out as often as you can, different places, even if it's just in the car. Go through drive-through, get a donut together or something, because when you take him out, it takes his mind off, because your dog companion is always at home and seeing the empty space. We can go out, or we can talk to friends. They don't have that luxury. So make sure, take him to different places, so he sees different things, he smells different things. That will really, really be a big help as well.
Thank you.